A to Z Sports, prime time on a Thursday night. We're so happy to have you in. Over the course of this evening's show, the last primetime show of the week, in fact. And tonight we are talking about Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill. He has received high praise from two very, very reputable sources in NFL and sports media. I'll tell you exactly who those two individuals are here in just a second, and we'll get into the discussion about Ryan Tannehill as a system quarterback. We will also spend some time on the biggest AFC South storyline that is not Titans related, because this is an interesting division this year, something that I want to get into at a little bit greater length regarding the other three teams that reside in Tennessee's division. We'll do that as well as a Brimac bounce back, because that is our Thursday custom. We're excited to see all of you in. We're even more excited if you would be willing to invite some of your friends to hang out with us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you are viewing this show on Twitter, go ahead and retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. We would thank you for doing so. You can hang out with us on Facebook Live by sharing. Share now to public. It's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and you can get your Facebook friends involved that way. YouTube and Twitch people, if you would be kind enough to subscribe to the A to Z Sports channels, where you can get all of our live streaming content at the very least, 6 days a week. You will be glad that you did. And now that more of you are here, we can begin our show officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports prime time on a Thursday night. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I'm proud as always to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. Since 1983, nearly 40 years in Middle Tennessee, they have been providing you exceptional service and American-made Ford vehicles. Find out what's new at Two Rivers Ford. In fact, I'll tell you about it later on in the show, out in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is trying to get you in on all the action with all manner of great promotions. Promo code A to Z Sports is how you do so. Start making money today in the DraftKings Sportsbook app. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage has the intel that you need to sell your home if you are in the market to do so in this seller's market that is going crazy as far as Nashville real estate is concerned. Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. And of course, Brimac Mechanical, for satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. They will put you in a position to succeed. They will put you in your comfort zone. BRYMAK, Brimac.com. So it's lovely to see all of you this evening for our final show of the primetime week, Sunday to Thursday night. If you're new to the proceedings, I see Brad, Larry, Lewis, Steven, Chris, Dominique, Durka, Hal Laws, all of our favorites. And Tyler Bowes writes in, listen to your show on 104.5 every day while trucking. Well, thank you, Tyler. I hope we keep you entertained and awake while you're out on the road. But tonight we are going to use something from the 104.5 The Zone show, but not the radio show. A new show that I've been fortunate enough to announce my involvement in today, courtesy of our friends at 104.5 The Zone. And it has a great deal to do with Ryan Tannehill. So Ryan Tannehill has been the subject of much discussion these last few weeks with the ESPN top 10 lists and a lack of his presence on these at the quarterback position, something that is considered by any NFL pundit, any NFL person. Ryan Tannehill is the biggest snub on that list of any of the people who did not make ESPN's top 10 positional rankings. Now, in any other circumstance, I would tell you that it doesn't matter. The list season does not matter. The list season is largely a waste of time. But for Ryan Tannehill, I do think it does provide Titans fans and him some validation to be recognized by a group of his peers. This is something that Ryan Tannehill has been perpetually fighting against since his career got started in Miami. So the question that I would like to ask you on this Thursday night, your Two Rivers Ford take. What two words best describe Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill? Let me know in the comments on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch TV. We will get you involved in the proceedings tonight. let me know across the 4 A to Z Sports social media platforms, your Two Rivers Ford take. What 2 words best describe Ryan Tannehill? While you guys do that, I will tell you about our friends at Two Rivers Ford, who provide you the Two Rivers Ford take, and not just the Two Rivers Ford take, but the all-new electric Mach-E Mustang, the new 2021 F-150, the 2022 F-150 Lightning, all electric as well. The brand new 2021 Ford Bronco, and all manner of great new vehicles that Ford is rolling out. That is what's new at Two Rivers Ford. But what remains the same is the award-winning customer service, the non-commissioned sales staff who puts no pressure on you throughout the course of the car buying experience, a name that you know and a brand that you can trust to support you in your car purchase, to find the best value and best fit for your family, for you and your family's needs, and who supports the community as well as the sports community, not just Middle Tennessee, but Middle Tennessee sports teams as well. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, or online at tworiversford.com. Check them out. So, what are the 2 best words to describe Ryan Tannehill? Because there's been a lot of talk about Tannehill over the course of the last several weeks, as we discussed. Let's read some of your comments before we get to our first video of the evening. Competent character, says Alan DM73. Never die, says Lewis Chesney. Well, Lewis, I think that would be anatomically impossible because we all die at some point, unfortunately, for all of us. Death is inevitable. But great football is not. Ryan Tannehill, great football, great offensive football, touchdowns are not inevitable. Somebody has to cause them. Unlike death, death comes for us all. And I don't know why I keep saying it like that, maybe because I'm rewatching Game of Thrones in my spare time, what little spare time I have before training camp kicks back up and my life is all consumed by Titans football. Again, we had meetings about that today, and I'm very excited about that. But competent character is a good one. Real deal, says Evan White. Real deal is a good way to summarize it, right? He is responsible or a part of the best offense in the history of the Tennessee Titans franchise. And I don't say that lightly. This is a franchise that goes back since 1960, formerly known as the Houston Oilers, and has had some prolific offensive players throughout the course of his history, whether we're talking about all the way back to Warren Moon or George Blanda, Dan Pastorini, Steve McNair, Eddie George, great players across the offensive spectrum. But Ryan Tannehill has quarterbacked the best of these offenses in the history of the franchise. Real deal without question. Responsible for 40 touchdowns last year, has elevated his level of play exceptionally since coming to Tennessee and taking over the starting quarterback job. He is a completely different player. Well, I shouldn't say that, because what Tannehill does best, he has always been capable of this. It's just now he's in a place, or at least under Arthur Smith, he has been in a place where they recognize what it is that he does best and how it fits with the pieces around him that has elevated him as such. Perfect fit, says Tim. Forgive me, Tim. I'm going to butcher your last name. V Finkel on YouTube. Tim V Finkel on YouTube says perfect fit. Underrated, says Stats 916. Well, Stats, that's one word that you've split into 2. So because of grammatical error, I'm going to go ahead and disqualify your answer, but I appreciate the effort. Tribe Called Quez says unfairly ridiculed because of Adam Gase. Graceful individual, according to Austin Hall. He is. The finger roll is graceful unless he takes a bad landing like he did. I think that was against the Bills, that he came down funny on his leg. I thought he was going to tear his ACL. I mean, the entire press box just kind of, tightened up. I mean, no pun intended, but physically tightened up watching him go through the air and then come down funky on his knee. I thought it was going to be a bad situation. Nothing worse than a season-ending injury because of a celebration. Mario the Killer says Stats 916. So he's corrected his answer with one that is very, very on point. Tennessee fitting, says Titans for life. This is indeed so. The 2 words that I would use are system quarterback. And I'll tell you why that's not a bad deal, because I have a new podcast. Like I'm not doing enough lately, but I was approached with an exciting new opportunity to do. And if you're an NFL fan, you know who Greg Cosell is. Greg Cosell of NFL Films, the OG of film breakdowns, the NFL matchup show on ESPN. Greg Cosell and I have started a new podcast together for the Zones Podcast Network. And today we released the first episode of that. It's called The Install. You can subscribe, rate, and review wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Episode 1 is available to you now. But Greg and I spent a lot of time on the idea of system quarterback, that term specifically, and why it fits Ryan Tannehill. But not just Ryan Tannehill, why it fits every other quarterback as well.
And what I'm about to say, by the way, it's not a negative term because everyone is, but I think there's a sense that he's a system quarterback. Now, I just want to say this. Every quarterback is a system quarterback because that's the way it's taught.
Right.
There's no coach who rolls the ball out and says, let's see what we can do today and let's run around and see what happens. Every quarterback is taught a system. Now, I think people still have a sense of what a system quarterback means in that he needs all the pieces in place to be effective. That's a hard question to answer with Ryan Tannehill. This is the offense in which he's in. He's been very efficient, very effective within the context of this offense. The weapons are in place. We'll see.
So Greg went on for about another minute on this subject, but I thought that was a pretty great way for Greg to kind of dispel the notion of what exactly a system quarterback is. As Rob Georgioff, forgive me, Rob, says on Facebook Live, he's a master of the play action pass. With those two wideouts, they could possibly put up 40 points a game. And they were north of 30 points a game last year. For them to exceed that, I think, Rob, would be a difficult proposition. But all quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. In Tennessee, they have found, at least Arthur Smith has, and Todd Downing is a part of this, being a part of the staff the last 2 years. Now with the offensive play caller, offensive coordinator position, we'll have to find a way to continue to maximize the talents of Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is a system quarterback, and the system that he is in, the system that they have made for him in Tennessee, fits him to a T. Ryan Tannehill, the two words that I would use are system quarterback. And I'll tell you why that doesn't matter here in just a second, right after I tell you about our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, my favorite sportsbook app and America's top-rated sportsbook app. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook because it's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know that you will too. It's safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. All you need to do to get in on the action is download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code A2ZSports when you sign up to turn $1 into $150 in free credits. Bet on the basketball team of your choice to win their next game in these NBA Finals, and if they do, you will claim $150 in free credits. That's promo code A2ZSports for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Tennessee only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. DraftKings Sportsbook, promo code A2ZSports is how you get in on all of the action. So, the question that we've asked you, your Two Rivers Ford take, is what two words best describe Ryan Tannehill? Larry Ford says, damn, Buck, you look like Andrew Luck in that video. Sorry, bro. Well, listen, I am markedly better looking than Andrew Luck. No offense, Andrew. I mean that respectfully. But my hairline is better, although I am starting to notice, guys, that my hairline right here, I've always had a widow's peak, but I feel like the widow's peak is being exacerbated. So maybe I shouldn't talk smack about Ryan Tannehill's, Ryan Tannehill's got the bald spot of all bald spots in the middle of the back of his head. But Andrew Luck and his receding hairline, I shouldn't crack jokes at anymore because it seems to be coming for me too. I'm a little worried about that. But anyway, let me not stress out about my hairline tonight. So yes, I have come to the acceptance phase of being a better looking version of Andrew Luck. I would take his bank account, but not his physical appearance. And he seems to have a bit of a drooling problem, but that's okay. System QB is the same problem as defund the police. This is tremendous by Juicebox. Juicebox678 on Twitter. System QB has the same problem as defund the police. people have no idea what it really means. So it could be defund the police. It could be critical race theory. It could be game manager. It could be system quarterback. This is chef's kiss, a great comparison because people gravitate towards these terms, right? These are what we call buzzwords. And I'm not going to get into defund the police or critical race theory and start a fire in the mentions of the last show of the primetime week. But they're buzzwords, right? They trigger people who disagree with the assessment that the phrase, connotes, whether it's system quarterback or defund the police. These are something that people click on or fight over without really understanding, the layers of what goes into what is being described. It's the problem that we have across all social media, where things are radicalized, for lack of a better term, by one side, by both sides, really, to fuel a fight between each other. That is, I wish I had something to give Juicebox 678, other than saying that's probably the best comment I've gotten on a primetime show all week long, because that is such a spot-on comparison by you. But one that's probably going to get me in a fight. Like, here we go. Titan Two-Tone says, shut that dumb shit up. Oh, relax. Nobody. See what happened? Juicebox put it in the comments, and somebody who's not willing to have a nuanced discussion just immediately got bent out of shape. Titan Two-Tone, you're going to be fine. It's okay. Take a deep breath. Namaste. We're just talking about quarterbacks tonight. That is too funny. Here on A to Z Sports Primetime. My system quarterback is okay, though. My two words to describe Ryan Tannehill. I've laid it out many times to you, but a lot of people seem to gravitate towards a video clip that went viral yesterday from Mike Greenberg of ESPN's radio show. Greeny was going through the list of accomplishments for Ryan Tannehill since becoming the starting quarterback in Tennessee and how it's affected Derrick Henry specifically. I'll play that for you here in just a second. In fact, why don't we play that for you now? Here was Mike Greenberg on his radio show that you can catch on ESPN, going through the ways that Ryan Tannehill has been disrespected.
They just dissed and dismissed Ryan Tannehill, who over the last 2 years has been as good as any quarterback in the sport. So I had Hembo put together some numbers for me so we can really make that point. Since Ryan Tannehill became their starting quarterback, Tennessee's offense is number 1 in yards per game. It's number 1 in yards per play. It's number 1 in red zone. It's number 3 in scoring. It's number 3 in total efficiency. It's number 3 in third down. And don't tell me that's Derrick Henry. Don't tell me it's all Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry ranked 14th in the NFL in rushing in 2019 at the time that Ryan Tannehill took over as the starting quarterback. Since then, he has run for 1,000 more yards than any other back in the NFL. When Marcus Mariota was the starting quarterback, Derrick Henry averaged 51 rushing yards per game. Since Tannehill took over, he averages 126. Since Tannehill became their quarterback, they're 18-8 plus 2 playoff wins, with the 29th ranked defense in the sport. Since became the starter, Ryan Tannehill is number 1 in average yards per attempt. He's number 3 in QBR. And only Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson have thrown more touchdowns. So Ryan Tannehill's numbers are stupendous. They're off the charts, ridiculous. People still perceive that as a defense team. Their defense stinks. Ryan Tannehill is the reason they've gotten so good. And yet when they poll people in the sport, he's not in the top 10. It's got to be a joke. Why is Ryan Tannehill so completely disrespected and overlooked? It is because people had a perception of him in Miami that they've never gotten past. It's as though they've forgotten that the problem in Miami was Adam Gase. That Adam Gase coached Ryan Tannehill into that. And he came here and he became this. He's been as good as any quarterback, with no exceptions, in the NFL in the year and a half that he's been a starter. You want to tell me it's only a year and a half is not enough of a sample size? That's the only reasonable argument I can see against saying that he is an elite quarterback. He is as elite as anybody you want to name.
That's from Mike Greenberg's radio show. The GOAT CJ2K says, Buck, clip this with the Nokia. Listen, I don't mean to throw producer Reed under the bus, but sometimes when we use clips, the quality diminishes. So do not yell at producer Reed about the quality of the video. You understood the point that we were trying to get across. Leave producer Reed out of this. He works very, very hard for this show. He makes me sound and look much better than I actually am or look. Here on A to Z Sports Prime Time from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. Jimmy Allen says, I don't think Tannehill made Henry better. I believe it's the other way around. I'm down for the King. If anything, they made each other better. So, Jimmy, there's some truth to that. But because and that was not my intent tonight to create a, who makes whom better, Tannehill or Derrick Henry, right? Because that's, it's like we're talking about with system quarterback. That's one of these buzz topics, buzzwords that makes people pick a side. I'm not trying to have people pick a side tonight. Ryan Tannehill, though, the point that we are all making, Jimmy, I think is that Derrick Henry was not able to succeed without the threat of a competent passing game. He was not able to carry the load. Sometimes, yes, Derrick Henry is a spectacular player. Nobody is using this as an opportunity to diminish the importance of Derrick Henry or the impact that he has on the field. But I do think it's critical to point out that Derrick Henry's average yards per game doubled once Tannehill became the starting quarterback. Doubled because of the threat of an efficient, competent, high-scoring passing offense that allows more room for Derrick Henry to do Derrick Henry things at the best possible level. So I understand why you would think it's the other way around, because Derrick Henry is the star of the show. Nobody is dismissing, and maybe it'll be Julio Jones and maybe it'll be A.J. Brown. We know what Derrick Henry is, though. But I think it's also important to remember what Derrick Henry was prior to Tannehill, because the game done changed for Derrick Henry as soon as Ryan Tannehill. Maybe not as soon as, but very soon after Ryan Tannehill became the starting quarterback here in Tennessee. Titans for Life says, it's because teams can't sell out and put 9 in the box. 8, yes. 9, no. Yeah, they still saw the most 8-man boxes of any team in the sport last year because of Derrick Henry. But they were able to exploit those 8-man boxes because they have a high-level quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. Love Henry and Tanny, says Terry Kuiper, a 1-2 punch. Roger Saffold coming over to the Titans helps too. Run left, says Donovan Romaine, without question. Will you still have 615, says Puka? Yeah, listen, because I got this question a lot today about, now I'm doing 4 different shows every week. And we'll get to the AFC South conversation here in just a second. But I want to make sure that everybody knows nothing is changing now with the new Cosell podcast. I'm only doing the Cosell podcast once a week, 5 prime times a week, 5 radio shows a week, 1 615 a week, 1 Greg Cosell a week. So if anything, Puka, where the 615 used to be twice a week, the Cosell podcast is simply taking the place of the time that I used to spend doing 2 615 sessions podcast every week. So don't sweat the content. It's not going anywhere. And your boy is not tired. So the content will continue to roll out. By the way, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review to both the 615 Sessions podcast and the new podcast that I'll do with Greg Cosell of NFL Films each and every Wednesday. It's called The Install. Check it out in your favorite podcast app right now. Josh Johnson says, we know who's making all the money. Listen, you got to do what you got to do. Josh, there's a lot of money out there to be made. Just ask Stephen A. Smith. I'm not $8 million a year yet, but we're working on it. How was the vacation, man? Says Jeff Charles. Vacation was great, but vacation is over, baby. We're off and running now up until football season. Buck, Titans for Life says, Buck, you're not busy enough. Did you surrender game day mornings to your girlfriend? I certainly did not. Well, here's what I'll say. I shouldn't say that. All I will tell you is I am no longer doing, because we haven't yet made this announcement, but I am no longer going to be doing A to Z Sports game day, Titan game day morning for A to Z Sports anymore. And the game day morning show isn't going anywhere. And Austin and Zach will make that announcement in their own time when they're ready, and they'll tell you how you can continue to consume a great product. It just won't be me in the bathrobe anymore, drinking pumpkin spice lattes with you every Sunday morning before Titans games. That one I had to let go of, but I will still have a product to bring to you on game day involving Titans radio. But not so, because I saw some reporting on this about what my role with Titans radio might be, and I will tell you that there is it is incorrect what is reported, but that we will be able to talk about that later as we get closer to the season. A lot of cool stuff coming for you this football season. Let's see, Victor. Okay, Kevin. Okay, let's move on. I'm getting bogged down in the comments. What will replace that time slot, says Lucas. It's still going to be in that time slot. It just won't be me anymore. And again, I can't tell you anything but my part of the story to tell you. The rest is for the A to Z Sports, the founding members of A to Z Sports, Austin and Zach, to decide and tell you on their own timeline. But let's talk about the biggest storyline not related to the Tennessee Titans in the AFC South. That's the question that I'm asking you guys on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. What is the biggest non-Titans storyline in the AFC South? Let me know on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. We can get into it together over the course of this evening. What is the biggest non-Titans storyline in the AFC South this year? Get involved in the comments section, and we will discuss at length together here on the A to Z Sports Primetime Show. While you guys do that, I'll tell you about the official real estate agent of the Tennessee Titans, Gary Ashton, and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. That's where you go for your dream address without the stress. That is where you go to sell with the intel that the Ashton team can provide to you. Gary is the best in the business in Middle Tennessee, also the official real estate agent of the Titans, the Preds, and A to Z Sports Prime Time. Check out the Ashton team, and they will they will make sure that you are comfortable in your home buying experience. Gary Ashton and the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage at GaryAshton.com. Buck going to have a nationally syndicated show in a couple of years, says Dirk at time. I mean, listen, all that I get to do, I owe to you guys. But we've talked way too much about me and what I'm doing tonight. Let's talk about the AFC South. Austin Hall says Sherman. So Richard Sherman, that's not something that we've talked about on the Primetime Show. I really haven't even had time on the radio show to get to it yet either. I'm gonna have some time tomorrow though. We'll have Ron Slay of 3HL Vol for Life to talk about the NBA Finals, and Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will join us for his weekly segment as well. But the Richard Sherman thing is something I'm going to talk about tomorrow too. I'm going to play the 911 call on the radio show tomorrow. We did not have room for it this week on primetime. But Richard Sherman is not a storyline in the AFC South. Now, had the Titans signed him, as many of you wanted them to sign him, it would have been a storyline in the AFC South. As I look at I've got ESPN on in the studio right now. Judge orders Richard Sherman's release. Sherman won't face felony charge of burglary, domestic violence. The 911 caller says Sherman drunk and threatened suicide. Identified herself as Sherman's wife, said he was belligerent. So that's basically the summary. So it's not an AFC South storyline because Richard Sherman is still a free agent right now, and it sounds like things in Richard Sherman's life are not well. So we hope that he and his family find the resolution and the peace that they need, because that is such a horrific experience to have publicly broadcast the way that this story has been. Puka says Urban Meyer, which is a good one. Urban, who got subpoenaed yesterday. Urban and Trent Baalke got subpoenaed because they, stupidly hired a racist strength coach who is under investigation, and a lawsuit has been filed against him because of racial improprieties that Chris Doyle, the former Iowa strength coach, had committed at Iowa, and a handful of Iowa players had formed a suit or filed suit against him. Now Urban and Trent Baalke are being subpoenaed, and it is one of the many headlines that Urban has made so far since becoming the head coach of the Jags. What is the biggest AFC South storyline, non-Titans division right now? Dirk of Time with a good one. Deshaun Watson is the biggest non-Titan storyline in the AFC South. Trevor Lawrence says, Evan White. Can you imagine if Trevor Lawrence was watching primetime? Trevor Lawrence doesn't know how to dive, says Evan White. I don't know how to dive. I don't know how to swim. So no shame. No shame for Trevor Lawrence in that regard. All the other AFC South QBs, says Donovan Romaine. Jeff Charles, though, I think, and listen, Watson is the biggest news story, right? There's no question that Deshaun Watson is the biggest news story out of any of this. Urban Meyer is a big storyline to watch. Deshaun Watson is the thing that has the potential to be and is one of the biggest stories of the offseason. But it's largely gone quiet for the last couple of weeks as they kind of work through the legal process on this. And we do not believe that we will see him week 1 starting for the Houston Texans. In fact, I very much believe at this point it'll be Tyrod Taylor. But the thing that I think has the biggest, or the potential to have the biggest impact on this division, is Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz and his ability, or the Colts' ability, to revive his career. He was the worst by many, many metrics, the worst starting quarterback in the NFL in the 2020 season. He was one of the least accurate quarterbacks from a clean pocket. There are mechanical issues with Carson Wentz that I think should give Colts fans very, very much pause. He has the ability to reunite with Frank Reich, and the Colts are a more stable organization right now than the Philadelphia Eagles have been, it sounds like, in the last couple of years, where you see the Super Bowl winning coach has been jettisoned by his own wishes. Doug Peterson, who has a statue built to him outside of the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium, is now, 3 years removed from winning a Super Bowl, winning the Eagles' first Super Bowl, and now no longer with the team. So Carson Wentz has the ability to have the biggest impact on this division if he is good and if he is bad. Either way, this has the potential to drastically affect the balance of power in the AFC South. Lucas Burke says that the Colts are better than the Titans. Cowherd is a clown. I'm sure Colin Cowherd is just out here trolling you guys. But, such is life. Deshaun Watson, Jimmy Allen says, Adam on ESPN, I assume he's talking about Adam Schefter, said Eagles have so much capital that they could pull a trade for him. Yeah, but nobody is trading. Nobody is trading for Deshaun Watson right now. You physically cannot trade Deshaun Watson right now. Keelan, who we haven't seen in a while, says, my man Buck, I ain't seen you since last month, man. I've had a lot of vacation lately. So it's good to see you back, Keelan. And I'm back with you guys basically every night outside of, outside of federal holidays. I'm back with you for the remainder of football season, and we are excited for that to be the case. Destin Ortega says, Lucas Burks is talking to Destin Ortega. Forgive me, you guys. When you have conversations among yourself, the way that the new setup, well, I guess it's not really new. We've been doing this for 6 months. It feels like the setup that I have now, I can't see when you guys are talking amongst yourselves as opposed to talking to me. So forgive me if I get bogged down by that. Jimmy Allen says, because of the Vic situation and now Deshaun, Eagles have been known to overlook situations. Yeah, I mean, dog fighting and what is being described as a form of sexual assault that Deshaun Watson is being charged with. Excuse me, I got something caught in my throat. Both are very serious. And listen, worse individuals have played in the NFL. Greg Hardy is probably the best example of these things, horrific acts, or at least in recent memory. Greg Hardy is the most recent of these just horrific stories, and still got an opportunity to continue his NFL career because, you don't have to be a good person to be a good football player, as we have found time and time again. But there is no way that a team would be comfortable trading for Deshaun Watson for no other reason than they don't know whether he's going to be available to them. You can't trade for him unless you are completely and totally concrete on the idea that he will be able to play snaps for you at some point in the future with years remaining on his contract. Right now, that is very unclear. M. Andrews 94 says, "Swallow the marbles, Buck." Yeah, somebody give me that Bussin' with the Boys clip, which is still makes me laugh every time that Taylor Lewan and Will Compton would be comfortable making fun of my voice. Taylor sounds like he's got a dog toy stuck in his throat, and Will sounds like every stereotypical Blue Mountain State character you've ever seen, and I love them both. I really do. But yeah, swallow the marbles, Buck. Boogeyman Gaming on Facebook Live says, Buck. I said Colts QB is 12 interceptions out the league, and they're supposed to be better than us. Wow. Yeah, I mean, listen, you guys are just going to have to deal with the consistent Titans disrespect in favor of the Colts. Because here's what I'll say about that, Boogeyman. It's easier to do that. It's just easier to do that because that's from a standpoint of people who don't cover, like I cover the Titans every day, right? For example, Colin Cowherd does not cover the Titans every day. He does not cover the AFC South every day, who has been historically the best team in the AFC South. It's been the Colts, at least for the last 20 years of my life. It's been the Indianapolis Colts. Now, they have, ironically enough, the Texans in the last, 5 to 10 years have won more division titles than Indianapolis. So maybe people should take a closer look at what has been happening in the division. But it is easier to pick the Colts because the Colts have historically been the better team. And a lot of times when you don't cover a team on a day-to-day basis and aren't familiar with the every day or every year changing dynamics among the teams, you go with what you know. And what most people know is that the Colts are the best team in the AFC South. Has the NFL levied any punishment against Watson, says Donovan Romaine? No, but they have the ability to put him on the shelf anytime with this, what's it called? The commissioner's exempt list that they did with, I think Adrian Peterson was the first one of these. There was one fairly recently too that escapes me. I know Adrian Peterson was the first time that I had heard of the commissioner's exempt list, where you just put a player on the shelf until you figure out what the hell to do with him. Juicebox678 says there's a doorbell camera of Sherman trying to break into the house. Very damning. It's unfortunate. I'm gonna have to. I've heard the 911 call. I will have to seek out the video footage. Unfortunately, that's a sad situation. It's the biggest story in football right now, though. And again, I hope that everything is okay with Richard Sherman and his family, because that's scary stuff. And I said it yesterday on the radio show. Anytime something like this happens with an NFL player, maybe I shouldn't do it this way, but a lot of time my mind just goes to, are they okay in the head because of what this sport is and what happens to these guys as they age and as they play at such a high level and that they get in collisions, very violent collisions at high speeds. I every time something like this pops up, maybe I shouldn't do it that way, but I always think about, what's wrong with their head, or what's going on with their head, because that is such a real thing in football. Let's move. Yeah, we got one more topic to do. Brimac bounce back. Let me not get ahead of myself. Let's do the Brimac bounce back. Who in sports needs to bounce back this weekend? Now, this should be an easy one because there's not a whole lot happening in sports right now other than the NBA Finals and the MLB season, even though it is All-Star Week. Who needs to bounce back in sports? The Brimac bounce back. We do it each and every Thursday night. Let me know in the comment section on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch. We will discuss at length together who needs to bounce back. Who needs to bounce back in sports the most this week? Let me know, or this weekend. Let me know in the comments on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. While you guys do that, I'll tell you about who presents the Brimac Bounce Back. That is Brimac Mechanical. BRYMAK, Brimac.com. Satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. They will put you in your comfort zone now that summer is officially upon us. We are in the thick of things. Make sure that you don't sweat it out too bad. Brimac.com, BRYMAK, Brimac Mechanical. They will set you up and make sure that you don't sweat it out this summer. And as the seasons begin to change, make sure you get preventative maintenance from Brimac Mechanical. Who needs to bounce back in sports this weekend? Esdal23 just goes general. He says basketball. Martin Truex Jr. in NASCAR. Thank you, Donovan Romaine. I know who Martin Truex Jr. is, but I do appreciate that because there are many things in NASCAR that I am unfamiliar with. Chris Paul says John Torkington, a tough loss for the Suns last night. The Bucks have evened up this series. The Red Sox, says Monsoon Monahan, dropped 2 of 3 to the Phillies. The Phillies stink. And I don't hate Joe Girardi. I don't know Joe Girardi, but I don't like the way that he handles himself. Juicebox with Chris Paul. USA Basketball, a big one, says Boogeyman. I am so frustrated with the state of U.S. With the U.S. national team right now in basketball, heading as we get close to the Olympics next week. It makes me so sad, so depressed to see us losing to Australia and Nigeria, teams that have no business being in the gym with us. And we continue to and I understand these games don't count. They're exhibition games. Once they get to FIBA competition and over to Tokyo, then we will see, a substantial difference, I hope, in the level of competition. They need some time to play together, I understand, but we should never, ever, ever, ever lose games the way that we have been losing them, even if they are exhibition games. Chris Paul says Devin Torres, yeah, again, a tough situation for the Suns last night. They will be my Brimac bounce back candidate of the weekend. The Suns had a 2-0 lead. They have since lost the last 2 games. The Suns need to bounce back. They are our Brimac bounce back candidate of the weekend. We will see what takes place in Game 5 on Saturday night. Well, actually, I won't be watching Game 5 on Saturday night because I'm getting to take a bunch of people who listen to the Zone radio show to a Nashville SC game on Saturday night. So I have one more pair of tickets to give away to that, by the way. If you don't listen to the show on 104.5 The Zone, it's very simple. It's called The Buck Rising Show. You can check it out via podcast as well. But at 12 or noon tomorrow, you can be listening for a chance to win 2 tickets to come hang out with me at a Nashville SC game. Well, they gave us 20 tickets to give away to take listeners to a Nashville SC game with us. So if you want to give us a listen tomorrow at noon and try and go to the soccer game with us on Saturday, we would be more than happy to have you. Going to be a lot of fun on the radio show tomorrow too. We'll be talking more about the NBA Finals with Ron Slay, the Richard Sherman conversation, and then as always, Coach Mac, Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will join us at 12:20. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you guys. As always, you have been great. You have been so good. You're always great. You guys always bring it strong. The comments have been fantastic this week. The conversations have been great. And I so enjoy getting to spend Sunday through Thursday nights with you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review to the new podcast that I'm doing with Greg Cosell. I know I've plugged it a lot lately, but I'm really excited about the project. It's called The Install with Greg Cosell. So go look it up in your favorite podcast app. Every Wednesday is where you can find it. And just know that they're putting more on my plate. I've said no to a couple things, but this one I'm really excited about doing. So I had a hard time saying no to it. Enjoy all of the content that we're producing, and just know that no matter how many times they come with me with different projects, know that I'm going to be thinking about you guys first, because we want to make sure you get the best content possible. And know that when I start to get tired, I'll start saying no. But damn it, I'm not tired yet. No!